Kauz for the Destructoid community, and I am talking here with Jennifer Hale. Thank you very, very much for agreeing to chat with me.
My pleasure.
Start off by talking a little bit just about video game voice acting in general,
Yeah,
because, you've done a lot of it. I mean, you must have done, something like 50 games by now?
it's more.
Maybe even
It's
more than
actually
that?
it's quite a few more. I don't know how many. I've lost count, but yeah, I feel
Yeah.
really lucky. I have to say
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's a lot of really good stuff
thank
too.
you.
But I just wanted to ask you, how have you seen voice acting change in that time, especially in terms of, what's asked of you and the quality of the final product that comes out of all of it?
I've seen two things change. I've seen the depth of the actor's involvement in the game grow, which has been great. They're because technology's advanced and people are realizing what we can bring to a game. There's a lot more room for us in the game, a lot more for us to do. And the second thing is perhaps my favorite thing, which is it's becoming more and more and more realistic each year. Like they're letting us just be in the game. It's very cinematic. It's getting more and more cinematic, which is awesome.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you, as a follow-up to that, about the freedom that you're given as an actress to simply act. Is that kind of what you're hinting at
Yeah,
there?
that's getting to be more and more the case. I think as the visuals get stronger and the subtlety starts to come into the visuals and the nuance can be communicated by what you see, then what you hear can be allowed to be more and more authentic. And we don't have to kind of push a little bit to get it across because it's really coming across in the visuals so well. We can just really be honest in whatever moment we're in.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm really interested in that idea of nuance in both voice acting and in the way that the characters are depicted on the screen.
Yeah.
What's an example of some great moment of nuance that you've experienced lately?
Oh, wow. Let me think for a second. An example of how that has really come into play recently is, well, let's see, for example, in Mass Effect 2, there are some scenes now, I mean, with the exception of me walking into a bar, and trying to track somebody down when you got bar noise and everything else going on. When it's just the one-on-one stuff, you can really just be in that moment with that person and say what you have to say the way that you would really want to say it. Instead of having to push it a little because you have to really push past some awkward visuals just because the technology wasn't there yet.
Mhm.
Now you can really just let it rip. And it's been that way through a lot of the game. I mean, it's really some of the evidence for that is some of the people we have working on Mass Effect 2. We have a lot of, I mean, we have Carrie Ann Moss. She's a film actress primarily. She's, very cinema. Obviously that's her genre. That's her deal. We have, Trisha Helfer. And the whole style of Battlestar and Michael Hogan, both of them, very, very close to the hip. Michael Hogan a little bit less so because Ty was such a great, intense character, but definitely,
Right.
Trisha Hogan from the Sixes, I mean Trisha Helfer from the Sixes, very, very subtle, and it works perfectly in the game because we've been allowed to be so much more truthful. Martin Sheen, Claudia Black, all those guys are able to slide right in now because the style has evolved to that point. The two worlds are kind of meeting, which is great.
Well, I'd like to talk a bit about Mass Effect for a moment, and specifically what the overall approach was in crafting Commander Shepard, both in the first game and kind of leading into the second, and how you and BioWare went about crafting the character, especially when there's, of course, the male counterpart in the mix as well.
Right, right. Well, as is still the case a lot, sometimes the female leaders get overlooked.
Sadly.
Yeah, fortunately that's changing, and I put a plea out there to everybody listening. Please let BioWare and everybody else know that you like it when we have. You want to see.
And I support this plea.
Yeah, you want to see more of female Shepherd as well. I mean, no skin off Mark's nose; he does a great job. But hello, so. The approach really, I mean, as in any game, It always begins with the geniuses who come up with the ideas and the writers who spend all those hours just working out storyline after storyline and crafting those storylines so that they develop character. And without them, we don't exist and we got nothing to do. And y'all have nothing to play. It really begins there and goes from there. I mean, the producer sort of locks onto their vision and oversees the whole thing, and then it goes into the director's hands. And we had two great directors on Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2. There was such a volume, it took two of them to get, I know, Mass Effect 2 done, especially Ginny McSwain and Chris Borders. And really would come in with the vision given to them by BioWare and describe to me what the environment was, because the environment is so key in any game, because every world is different and should be, and as an actor, it's our responsibility to key into what is that world and how do I live in that world and how do I get done what I have to get done and where do I come from. And fortunately all that was made really clear. And Shepard's not just an ass-kicking commander. She's a person with a history and an agenda and stuff to do and stuff she hates to do that she has to do and stuff she likes to do that she has to do, and then kind of a demeanor that she has to carry herself in all the time to be a commander, to be the first Spectre, human Spectre, to really fill those shoes right, And then there are little moments where it falls apart, and then how does she put it back together? And then in Mass Effect 2, just the way that whole thing starts is crazy. The whole history of Shepard and that thing is just wild. So,
yeah, I wanted to ask, leading into Mass Effect 2, what can players expect from Shepard this time around? Because we know some of the story so far, the basic ideas that Shepard's on this suicide mission. So how do you see Shepard as a character as having changed since the first game, and how much did you try to change your performance to fit that?
She has seen a lot more, if that was even possible. She absolutely has. She's been through a hell of a lot more. And but the thing that hasn't changed is that she's keeping her eye on the ball. She knows what she has to do. She lives for her mission, and she will get it done no matter what. That is the same. The circumstances she finds herself in are very different. There is an element in this story that she's having to deal with that she does not like at all. But it's sort of a necessary evil. And so how she manages that has been something to constantly address. And Martin Sheen plays a role in that. And that's all I'm going to tell you.